Welcome back to PSN News. I'm Jordan Spagnolli, and joining me is Dillon Williams, a photographer here at Penn State. Thank you so much for coming in tonight, Dillon, to just talk a little bit more about what you do here. So first of all, just what got you interested in photography?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. What got me into photography in high school, I went to a program in 11th grade. It was a 2-year program where I learned how to use a camera. And yeah, since then I've always been in love with videography and photography. And I'd say in 2021 is where I just sat down with myself and I really wanted to take it seriously.
So kind of going off of that videography, photography, I know you're a film student here, so how did you end up finding photography? Why did you kind of focus more on photography than maybe some of the typical things we see from those film students?
It was an experience. So I was in Brooklyn Bridge Park, and well, even before that, I was at a party. One of my friends introduced me, but he didn't know what I did, and that kind of sat with me a lot. So I decided, I know how to use a camera, so why not just go for it? Why not just start a photography page, and if it works out, it works out, but at least I want to apply myself and really do stuff. So I think that was really the main experience that made me kind of step out of like the film-based route and go into photography instead.
And kind of speaking of like the route that it took you, has there been anything at Penn State that you've been involved in that's really helped you grow as a photographer and helped you reach maybe new heights that you haven't achieved prior?
Definitely. I'd say at the beginning it was Sovereign Magazine. In my freshman and my sophomore year, the involvement with that really helped me out a lot. Gave me some basis as a photographer, especially in like the creative studio realm. And then I'd say other than that, definitely Onward State has helped me out. Recently I just joined them, but also Comm Agency, the photography department. I joined them in January of 2023, and I'd say that's been the biggest help, especially in terms of professional development and all that type of stuff. It's been great.
And kind of going off of what you're saying about working with Comm Agency, how would you say Comm Agency has helped you as a photographer? What experiences have you had there that's really helped you?
You just get to work with a lot of real life clients. You get to work with people who know what they're talking about on your side of things, but also just real life clients who are like, hey, I want headshots that are at this angle and about 150 of them. You get to work in a fast-paced editing style. And it's definitely industry standard experience that I'm learning at such a young age before I go into the workforce eventually in about a year from now. So.
And kind of going off of that again, how would you say Comm Agency and freelancing has kind of differed? Maybe the pros and cons of both sides of the coin here that you're doing?
I say Comm Agency, it's a bit more polished. You know, I feel like most clients don't really want like too many extravagant edits, but with freelance, it's kind of my work, unless it's for like a graduation shoot. But even then, I'd say with freelance, I'm able to let my creative style a bit more loose. If you follow my Instagram, you'll see a lot more drastic edits on there than if I'm editing stuff for Comm Agency. So I'd say freelance definitely gives me more freedom to be expressive in the way that I'd like.
I think that's definitely an interesting difference there that you have between those two involvements. And I guess kind of going back to photography as a whole, why did you maybe decide that you wanted photos to be your medium rather than many other forms of medium that you could tell art and stories through?
I think that as a photographer, I think that photos are just really beautiful. I love the fact that you can capture memories through photos. I think that's one of the main things that really pushed me towards being a photographer, being able to capture those memories for people, for them to look back on. I do a lot of event photography, so that involves just taking pictures of people just having fun and having a good time. So I think just the ability to capture a moment in time was really what led me to photography, kind of more than anything else. It's not like I'm not video. I still do video stuff, but photography is what really is my bread and butter, I'd say.
And you know, you spoke about some different event shoots that you've done. What exactly would you say you think your favorite event has been shooting as a photographer?
Ooh, you know, I'll keep it brief, and I'll just say what recently came to mind. The Drake concert literally yesterday, because I didn't get in as like a media pass photographer, but thankfully, shout out to my roommate. My seats were very good. Our seats were very good. I just took photos on my phone, and I edited them when I got home, and I posted them, and they came out great. I think those are some of the best photos that I've ever taken. It was just off of a phone. It's really inspiring to let people know, like, you don't need fancy gear to take good photos. So, yeah, I'd say that's my favorite one.
And I guess that's something I never really thought about is it doesn't always have to be the fancy thousands of dollar cameras. Can you maybe speak a little bit more about the different kinds of gear that you've worked with and kind of how that's led you to different types and styles of photography?
I'd say for sure, I've definitely, coming to Penn State, I've been exposed to more expensive equipment. But even then, I've done photo shoots on a phone before. And I always say it's not about the equipment, it's about the person behind it. Because anybody can be given this $1,000 equipment, but it depends on what you do with it, what your composition, what your creative eye really like. So I'd say I've worked with a variety of equipment, but the main thing still remains the main thing. It's still trying to strike on something that's visually appealing and that's very strong in a conceptual manner.
I actually think that's really interesting. Kind of the focus is more about the person taking the photos than necessarily the equipment being used. And you spoke a little bit about composition and kind of the eye and what you see as being the photos you want to take. What do you think you would say you have an eye for? Do you like photographing people, events, scenery, forests?
I'd like to say people. I've been trying to get into the sports realm because I love sports, and being able to kind of meld that all in one has been a really great thing. But I'd say people for sure. I think that's where my creative eye is at. People interacting with the environment, people in studios and things like that. I say that's where I'm really at with things.
And kind of talking about, where you're at, where you're going, what do you necessarily think might be your plan to continue with photography as you continue through Penn State and eventually graduate and head off into the workforce?
I think as I head off into the workforce, it's going to be more freelance work. Hopefully, I do get a job within photography, but I'm also looking at the video aspect as well. To be real with you, it's wherever takes me and pays me the most money. So, as it should be for everybody. But yeah, I think freelance work for sure is definitely where I'm going to be at and just doing more creative things on my side.
No, and I definitely agree with you there. Just, finding what pays well, but also what kind of fits who you are as a person. Because again, like you said, it's about the photographer, not necessarily the equipment or the scenery you might be in. But Dillon, thank you so much for coming in tonight. Now stick around because up next is Carlos and Mariana with the latest news from across the nation.